Jacksonville above average on fourth down this season. They've converted 5 of 9 attempts, right around 56%. The league average is at 49. 4th and 4 from the 22. Bortles gonna run for it. He's got it in the end zone. Bortles inside the end zone for the Jaguars touchdown. And Jacksonville showing a heartbeat right back in it.
That's why I said he has the tools. He has the talent. He can be a winning quarterback in the NFL.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight, and we have some interesting news for the Broncos to discuss. According to some media reports, the Broncos are going to sign quarterback Blake Bortles. Now, there's a lot of things to break down, even just with saying his name, because a lot of people have different perceptions of that. Before we get too deep into it, I will say that of the quarterbacks that were out there, just available, if you're looking for a backup quarterback, he probably represents at least the most experience. The Broncos had interest before in signing Blake Bortles, so it's not too surprising that they showed interest here. But what does it ultimately say to you that the Broncos are going to make this move?
It says to me that this is a team that still thinks it's competing. This is a team that still wants to win football games. If you were putting it on autopilot and you were going into tank mode, tank for Trevor, whatever you want to call it, you wouldn't sign somebody. You wouldn't pay. I mean, even though it is veteran minimum, you wouldn't bring a body in. You just roll with the guys that you've got, Jeff Driscoll and Brett Rippon, and go from there. You don't need to interrupt, the balance of things. Blake Bortles is or will push Jeff Driscoll. Interesting anecdote. They were both actually rivals in high school.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were both rivals in high school. Driscoll was considered the better quarterback and actually went to Florida, whereas Bortles went to UCF. Now, at the time, Central Florida was a third-tier school in Florida. If you didn't get to the big three, Miami, Florida State, or Florida, you went to South Florida, USF. That was the second-tier school at the time. Blake Bortles put Central Florida on the map. I think a lot of people don't really remember that.
And Jeff Driscoll, wasn't he considered the better prospect at quarterback even at that time?
Well, right, and that's the thing. That's why he got recruited by the Florida, and Bortles went to UCF. Bortles he's got the size and the tools, but that's the thing. He really is more raw athlete thrower than he is quarterback, lacks the quarterback instinct, which I would also claim is probably the problem with Jeff Driscoll. But both of them have similar skill sets. Bortles has a little more experience and has taken teams, a little further. It'd be interesting to see. Bortles spent last year under Sean McVay, so it's certainly interesting to see what he learned.
I'm glad you see it the same way, because I felt like this was clearly a moment here where the Broncos are kind of letting everybody know and letting the team know simultaneously that they're still with the intention of contending. It also might say a little bit about Drew Lock's timeline. We're looking at the 3 to 5 week. And we said on the show yesterday that the expectation was maybe pushing closer to the bye week, which is week 8. So this strikes me as a move of it might be a little bit longer, or they're going to let Drew Lock heal as much as possible.
Yeah, I from what I was told, and we talked about this yesterday, I really think it's going to be the bye week before he's back. I know Vic had said some optimistic things about a couple of weeks. I really think this is going to go a little bit longer for Drew Lock than and probably on into the bye week.
Okay, so but that being the case, what can the Broncos do offensively with Blake Bortles, Jeff Driscoll? Not exactly the same kind of guy. They both like to use their legs, right? A little bit different, though, stylistically. I don't know if Pat Shurmur is going to be redesigning the offense necessarily. Vic Fangio certainly didn't seem to think so when he was asked that same question. What do you do with Blake Bortles versus Jeff Driscoll, and how you go about preparing to get this offense ready?
Well, you'll definitely have Driscoll be the starter this week. I mean, Blake Bortles coming in just didn't have time to get ramped up, as far as that kind of stuff goes. That said, if Driscoll struggles, you could see Bortles by halftime. I think Bortles is the better quarterback of the two. And he's a little bit better athlete, I think, at this point. Driscoll used to be a 4.5 40 guy, but now as he's gotten a little older, some of that's gone. I think that you just go out there and see what these guys are capable of doing, and you kind of taper the offense and tailor the offense around that. You're not going to change things up. You're not switching horses midstream, but you are going to kind of shape things that accentuate their strengths and go for it. You're probably going to see even more boot action, especially if Bortles is out there. So, look at that. I had some people ask questions about if the Broncos are going to go to 2 tight end sets now and all that. No, you're not going to reinvent what you do. You may see a few more plays like that, but you're not going to reinvent what it is that you came into camp to do. You're going to do what you came in to do, and it'll be next man up. That's the reason you have those backups, to be the next guy up.
Well, I'd like to see a little bit more focus on Noah Fant, and I would like to see some time with Albert Okwuegbunam on the field. So if the natural conclusion to that conversation is you're running a little more 12 with 2 tight ends, then I don't think that there's a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't know that Okwuegbunam's going to be out there as much.
I know he's dealing with the hip stuff.
Right, yeah, there's some nagging injury stuff, and I think they really want to pair him with Locke because that was kind of his binky in college. But
the guy made plays during training camp, whether it was with Locke or any of the quarterbacks.
Right, but the team feels more confident in Vanette and Butt right now, and with the injury, I can understand that. It's not that I don't want to see it; it's just that I don't think that's happening right now. I think you're going to continue to see what it is that you have seen. They'll continue to build on that, and go from there.
You bring up something that is kind of an interesting point about this, and Vic alluded to it in the press conference, that COVID does change the timelines on these things, because Blake Bortles bringing in this week, well, there was a potential, at least that you could see what he has and see if it makes any sense that you wouldn't start him this week. Jeff Driscoll's been here the entire offseason, all through training camp. Wouldn't make any sense, but at least you get a little more ramp-up time. But as it stands right now, he can't technically sign until Friday.
Right. And so that's the thing. You're not going to be able to get any practices in. You're not really going to get any time. He's just there to be an emergency.
But you still have him as the backup.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you'll hope that you don't need him. Rely on that athleticism and that kind of stuff. If he gets out there, there'll be a lot more running the ball. I promise you. If Bortles is out there, I think that this might be something. I was talking with somebody this morning, and they pointed something out to me, and they were like, one man's trash is another man's treasure. This time last year, there were a lot of people outside of myself saying that Ryan Tannehill was washed while he was sitting behind a young quarterback that had issues on the field and struggled with health problems, and Marcus Mariota. And, out of nowhere, Ryan Tannehill is now a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And I mean that. Like, I'm not being facetious about that. It's Russ, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, maybe Watson, and probably Tannehill. And so, could Blake Bortles turn into that? Maybe he resurrects his career. We don't know, but I'm interested to see it.
But at least if nothing else, it's a low risk move. I mean,
yeah, it's a low risk, high reward potential move. And so I'm not opposed to it. I mean, we make fun of Blake Bortles because it's Blake Bortles, and obviously the Jason Mendoza stuff from The Good Place, that's always funny. But I think if you're a Broncos fan, I think you're like, okay, well, let's see what this does. And if it doesn't amount to anything, it didn't cost us anything.